So here I have elderberries, water, ginger, along with a bit of cinnamon and clove, and hazel. Today I'm at a loss for words, but I have feelings, a lot of them, all just tangled up and jumbled together. Most of them are fear, mixed in with a great deal of denial and a little bit of hope. I am scared of what is happening in my country. I am fearful of what is to come. And at times I cannot believe that this is reality, though I know it's been coming for a while now. I was going to try to post earlier. Last week I wanted to do 2 videos, and every time I sat down to film, it just didn't feel right. I feel entirely useless, and I just don't really know what to do. I know most of you come to my channels for a bit of peace and some escape, but I just don't feel right creating that right now, at least not solely that. So instead, I am going to focus my efforts on sharing things that I know that are useful and helpful, things that will hopefully create a bit more self-sufficiency and gift back some natural born rights that we should have as human beings, as so many of them are being stripped away right now. I'm going to be sharing the learnings of the earth, dive more deeply into wild crafting and foraging and herbal medicine, and give you the tools of empowerment that I have to share. I know half of my audience is made up of Americans, and some of you need to wake up. Some of you already have. I still need to work out a lot of my feelings and thoughts on this before I can talk about it better, and I don't know if I'm really the person who needs to be an authority on this, but I wouldn't feel right to just post a video without saying, pay attention, educate yourself, and just try. I will mainly be sharing tutorials on my other channel, but here I want to share my thought process and experimentation, and you'll get probably some earlier peeks at the things I will be sharing more in depth over there. But again, I kind of need to collect myself, figure out my feelings a little better, consolidate my thoughts, and build a plan of action with this. So today, to do that, I am going to be making some elderberry syrup. One of my friends is sick. This is my go-to remedy for any sickness that is kicking you in the butt. And it's also great for anybody who's been exposed to an illness who doesn't want to get sick. It helps to boost your immune system into overdrive, and I think it is a valuable cure to have on hand and have the knowledge of how to make. So that's what we're gonna do today, and I have a couple other crafts to finish up. I don't know how much I'm gonna talk about the current events in America, so I don't know what to tell you. If you want to stick around for that, you can. If you don't, you don't have to. I may not talk about them at all anymore, but I just don't feel right existing and creating and pretending that nothing is happening. But I will still create the content that you have been here for. I just need to do it with a bit of an edge of progress and help, because there's not much I can do right now, but I do know that I have the knowledge and tools that can help gift some self-sufficiency to people. And I think that that is really valuable and important right now. And for those of you not even in America, which I know are half of you, these things will still be useful and interesting. So I hope you enjoy them and stick around for them. But anyways, let's get to crafting some elderberry syrup, shall we? Now just to take this to sit on the stove for about an hour to cook down. Crafting elderberry syrup is extremely simple. It takes just a few basic ingredients that take no time to put together, and then it just spends a lot of time cooking down. There's a more complex method of making it that I will share on my other channel when it's probably closer to fall that allows it to last a little bit longer. The method I'm making today is simple and quick and really good for immediate use situations, but I always love to make a batch of elderberry syrup in the fall to have through the winter months that will kind of serve as a good thing for that flu time of year. But like I said, the one I'm making today is just for quick use. It's not quite as shelf stable as the other one, and thus it needs to be consumed quicker. I am still working on tweaking this recipe a little bit. Today I'm experimenting with a few different ratios, and I will share the full recipe of it at a later date. But if you're able to get your hands on some dried elderberries, fresh ginger, cloves, and cinnamon, and along with some raw honey, then you'll be able to craft this recipe very easily. The full method of crafting elderberry syrup that is shelf stable does require the crafting of a tincture. You can just use straight alcohol, but that does tend to dull the syrup in the end. At least the medicine of it. I would like to teach a little bit more on tincture making before I share this entire recipe, but that's all things that I plan to be delving into in the time to come. Here is the finalization of the perfume I made. You can still kind of see the indents that the lilacs made in the fat, and it smells like a very mild lilac. I think I'm going to pack it up in the sky, seal it for the year, and then attempt this again next year with more fresh lilacs. I don't think I started early enough and wasn't able to capture quite as much of the essence that I would like to, but it's been a fun experiment and I feel like I learned a lot. So let's pack that up. I figured while I continued to try to finagle this all into this jar, we could just have a little chit-chat. There's a lot of dog hair in here. I would recommend if you're doing making perfume at home that and you have dogs to maybe cover it. Certainly not quite the most professional way to do things, but hard to avoid dog hair in this house. All in all though, I'm very impressed. It smells like lilac. It's very subtle. It never really picked up to an extreme degree, and maybe next year I will try it with more animal fats because that is the traditional method. And shea butter does have a little bit more of a scent to it. It's very neutral, but it is there. But all in all, it's been a really interesting process that I have really enjoyed. It was always a little moment of peace in the day. I would sit down in the morning, just drink a cup of coffee, and exchange the flower heads. And it took like 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, but there was something just really peaceful and lovely about sitting down and being still with that bit of nature. I don't get to do that as much in the city, but with gas prices the way that they are, I'm having to make do with being in the city a little more than I am used to, but it's okay. I'm finding a lot of balance here with that. Also, my house is starting to smell so good from the elderberry syrup. It smells a little bit like Christmas because of the clove and the cinnamon, so it's not quite right for this time of year, but we've had some weird weather here in Washington for summer. Usually it is very sunny and we're in the middle of a drought, but this year it is just rainy. Very, very rainy, but I will gladly take it. It's much better than the heat wave of last year. I'm hoping either next week or the week after that to make it out to the mountains. Right now, the way things are, all I want to do is just go and be in the places that sing and feel really good for my soul. And the mountains are a big part of that. And I will be sure to take you along with me for that as well. Alrighty, this is done. The elderberry's cooking. I'll check back in with you once it is off the stove and probably cooled down a bit. Alrighty, here it is. I definitely let it cook a little bit too long, so there's not as much liquid as I normally would have hoped. I just did not keep as close an eye on it as I should have, but I will still try to finish this out and see how it goes. I do need it to cool a bit, and I do need to run really quickly to the store to get some more honey. So I will do that and then check right back in with you and finish this guy up. This is definitely a much more concentrated amount of liquid to honey than I usually do. I probably should have measured these out differently, done the liquid before the honey, but it'll be okay. I cooked it down too much, but it will still be a pretty potent medicine and a pretty delicious syrup. So let's mix it all together. And with that, we have 2 small bottles of completed elderberry syrup. Like I said, it didn't quite go to plan, and I will be sharing in probably a few months the complete recipe of this. I will link the recipe that I am inspired by down below if you're interested to make this yourself. But yeah, it's a wonderful, super useful, and very delicious recipe for a great herbal medicine. I know this video is a little bit different than my normal content, and I will be working on getting back to that in the weeks to come. But like I said in the beginning, I don't really feel comfortable ignoring what is happening in my country. While I know I don't have a lot of power to change things right now, I do have a platform where I can share some things that may help. I don't feel comfortable being an authority to speak on this. I don't feel educated enough, but I do know that I'm going to keep pushing to learn and understand what is happening and figuring out what I can do. And I encourage you to do the same if you're an American, and even if you aren't one. Ultimately, all of us are very well connected, and I think it's important to pay attention to what's going on in the world. But while things are scary, I do still think it is important to give safe spaces to be. I don't want my content to be a place that you can just ignore what is going on, but I will create it in a way that allows you to also find some grounding and peace, because that is so important, so that you don't get burnt out and so that you can continue working towards what needs to happen. So in the weeks to come, I will be sharing lots of baseline recipes for herbal medicine, all of the things that you need to know to forage and wildcraft safely, and I may even do a series on urban gardening and growing a garden on a fire escape or indoors even. So if there's anything else along those lines that you all want to learn to help increase self-sufficiency and regain a little bit of power, let me know. I will teach what I know and what I can, and I will take you with me into the beautiful parts of this country that still remain. Luckily, these mountains out here are staying. They're a wonderful place to be and find center again when that is needed. So I will be doing that in the next video. I hope you all are doing well and hanging in there. I'll see you soon.